Order, please stand. Suzanne, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you remain standing for a moment, please? Heavenly Father, we thank you for a successful Power Show weekend with excellent weather and all donations that were received for our service groups. We ask that you continue to keep our sports teams safe in their games and in their travels. And Lord, grant us tonight the virtues of faith, hope, and charity, and grant those virtues for everyone in our community. Help us tonight to make the best decisions for our city's future and for all our residents and businesses. And we ask for all of this tonight in your holy name. Amen. Kathy, roll, please.
Carter. I am here. Walter.
Here.
Powell. Barstow.
Here.
Hayes. Here. Picken.
Here.
Lee.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum present tonight. Before we move to citizens' comments, this fell under citizens' comments anyway, but I'm going to hand the gavel to Council President Todd Barstow so we can work on the Equalization Board assessment folks. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
So we have an applicant.
She's here.
Oh,
Behind the,
ma'am, come on up.
she's hiding.
So if you'd state your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name is Erin Epley. My address is 10690 Refugee Road, Tassville, Ohio.
And so what we do is we just want to talk a little bit about why you'd like to be on the board, what your qualifications are, and then council may ask questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me tonight. I appreciate it. This is definitely a new experience for me. Again, my name is Erin Epley. I want to start out by saying I am a resident of Pataskala. I'm a small business owner in Pataskala, and I actually grew up here, so I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I wanted to express my interest in obtaining position in the Oak Meadow Drive Sidewalk Assessment Equalization Board. Sorry, I could not memorize that. I have a lot of interest in being active in our community and giving back to our community, which is one of the reasons why I am a small business owner in Pataskala with my family. I heard about this opportunity from a few councilmen. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I thought it would be a good opportunity for me to be involved and help just be a part of making a good decision for the best of the community.
Very good. And what business are you a part of?
Depot Street Coffee House.
Okay, very good. Questions? I'm sorry. Oops, sorry.
Does any member of council have questions? Thank you. Anybody have any questions? I trust everyone got Ms. Epley's resume, or it came, I think it came in our packet. Any questions?
Erin, thanks for coming. Do you know anybody that lives on Oak Meadow?
I do not.
No.
No, that's a good question, because you have to be disinterested, you want to be related to or know somebody there, close friends, and someone that's going to be affected by the assessment. Okay. Any other questions?
Thanks for
Okay.
coming.
Thank you very much. Thanks for applying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, we also have an application from Donald Berkey. And does everyone have his resume? I believe it came in.
Just this evening.
It came in this evening. Mr. Berkey cannot be here, but I'll ask council's pleasure if we want to consider his application. Any objection to going forward, just looking through him and talk. Ms. Carter,
Was there a cutoff?
I don't think there was a cutoff.
Expired it. The only reason I ask is because we held hard on that cutoff for other people, and I would hate to not be consistent with that.
Was there when we re-advertised, was there a cutoff, Kathy?
No, we did not re-advertise. We just left the old notice up.
So it's still open?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's still open, and we had one application that came in within the deadline.
Yes.
Correct, and then these have come outside the deadline.
Right.
So, I mean, Ms. Carter's point is well taken, that we have been hard and fast, but in this case, we didn't re-advertise. So I'll ask council.
Council President?
Yes.
You used the word deadline, but there was no deadline, right?
In the original notice, there was a deadline.
Okay.
When we only received one application, it wasn't reposted, but the posting was not removed because it was still open.
Okay,
But
thank
the
you.
posting still had the deadline in it.
Yes.
I wish we could change that.
Well, any other comment from council on this?
I think Mel's point's valid. At the same time, we've struggled to get this going, and we've not had any other applications, anyone beating the doors down, so. But I get your point.
And I was one of the people, along with Ms. Carter, who a few years ago decided to, number one, make current board applicants reapply, and to hold fast to the deadline. It seems, in this case, the city didn't take the posting down, leading people to believe that, and then I was encouraging people to apply, so,
I guess my only concern, Todd, would be people who read it and saw that there was a deadline, but it was still posted up, but it had a deadline in that message, and didn't apply because they had seen that deadline, so they just didn't do anything with it.
Maybe I can help a little bit. On the website and the Facebook, it's still is as open.
Okay, so there wasn't a deadline posted in the website or on the Facebook page?
It was, but when they're filled, then it's noted that it's closed.
In the language of the posting, is there a date?
Yes,
There's a deadline date in the language of the posting.
yes.
That is my concern.
But right now, the post says open,
Says we're
still Well-
accepting applications.
still
It says
accepting
They're
applications.
still accepting applications. But the notice was never updated to change a new deadline.
And this is the second time.
So that contradicts itself then.
yeah, I thought we had reposted with maybe with a new deadline, so.
I want people to apply, I'm just saying that if we are going to leave a posting open or put a posting back out there, we need to be diligent enough to change the language so it removes a deadline date. Because if some individual saw it, and even though it said the posting's open, but in the language of the posting, it said the deadline date of X, so they chose not to put in because of that, that's an issue for me, whether we had enough people post for it or not. I think that, if we want to leave it open for a second longer and change the language, I'm cool with that, but
Tom,
Yes,
can I ask a question?
yeah,
So, the biggest issue I think I have is this committee. Is there a deadline to form this committee? Is there a necessity to expedite forming this committee? And if there isn't, I'm 100% with Mel on being consistent. We've really
Right.
put our foot down and been consistent with this, and I would have to take this and say, yes, we'd have to be consistent if there isn't a deadline to form this committee, or a reason to expedite forming this committee and getting it done.
Mr. Kane?
There is no deadline to form this committee or have the hearing done or any of that.
So maybe a thought would be to put it back open until Monday of next, or till the next council meeting, and I think we've got some really good candidates here.
the
Quite
first,
frankly.
the first headline that reads on our Facebook, on our city website this moment is Oak Meadow Drive Sidewalk Assessment Equalization Board Openings Deadline 9/11/19.
Okay.
So if you see the deadline, do you keep reading?
Okay, well, Ms. Carter's point's well taken, so Kathy, let's update that and put the new deadline to be. The next council meeting is October 21st, so how about, usually October, what, 16th or 17th, what's
It's a Wednesday.
October 16th, at close of business, 5 o'clock or whatever close of business is for the city. Just update that on our pages, please.
Usually it's Jessica that updates.
Well,
Yeah, we'll get it updated, and typically the deadline's noon, so we have time to get it in the packet, but we'll do that accordingly for the 16th.
So, okay, all right.
I want,
Go ahead.
Mr. Higgins?
Mr. President, one of the questions I want to make sure that is, the stuff that came in does not have to be resubmitted.
No,
Okay.
All right.
we have it, we're just gonna leave it open in case we get more applicants.
In fairness.
In fairness, thank you, Ms. Hayes. I'll eat the mayor's gavel if we get more applicants, but I'm just,
Don't make me play games.
I'm just saying, but no, we appreciate the people who apply, but it's tough. I remember when I was on the Oak Meadow board, it was difficult. I was the last person. They had waited for, I think, 2 or 3 months before I, saved the day.
So,
Okay.
and Mr. President, I'm not trying to be difficult.
No, you're not.
I just,
That's a great point.
I just wanna make sure.
Ms. Carter, I was under the impression that we had updated it on the website to reflect the date of maybe last Wednesday or Thursday, so, okay. So, Ms. Epley, thank you for coming. I don't think there's any, we don't have, so the only other applicant we have is, Mr. Berkey is not here. I actually know Mr. Berkey now that I see his resume. I know him as well, so. Yes, Ms. Carter.
Ms. Epley, will she need to come to the
No.
next meeting and interview? That's
No,
what I was
we've
gonna say.
interviewed her.
I think
We're
we,
fine.
just with coffee.
Sure.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Mr. Mayor?
Do you think Mr. Berkey will be able to make the next meeting?
I do not know. Mr. Berkey is employed by Slate Run Metro Park and oftentimes has to close on Mondays.
Oh,
I don't know if that's necessarily where he is right now, but he told me when we were talking, he said sometimes Monday evenings are tough because he doesn't get to work till 1:30 or 2 when he works, and he has to make sure everybody's off the horse trail, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So it's a possibility. I'll talk to him.
Well, we have his resume.
We have his resume, and we can take a look at it. So great, okay. Any other business on the Oak Meadow? I see Ms. Hayes moving her head, which is good. Okay, great. All right, I'll turn
Thank
it
you.
back over to, thanks, turn it back over
Thank
to
you.
the mayor. Thank you.
We wouldn't subject you to the rest of it. All right, any citizens' comments tonight? They're lining up. All right, introduction, discussion, and approval of consent agenda matters.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
second.
seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion and roll.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Pickens,
Yes?
Lee,
Yes.
Consent agenda passes. Mr. Barstow, what do you got tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the last several weekends, I've been out talking to folks. It's been great, meeting new people, seeing some old friends. It's been awesome. One thing I do want to report is, some of you may know, there was a tsunami of comments about the trash pickup. My unscientific survey of residents, this is just in Ward 3, is that there weren't any problems with the trash pickup. A couple of things, some speeding, a couple of folks didn't get their trash picked up, we can fix that. Not, especially in our rural areas, not getting trash cans off of the roads completely makes it more difficult on some of our narrow roads. But most people, when I asked them, how was the trash pickup on Friday, they kind of gave me a funny look and said, well, they picked it up. That's what we're supposed to do. So I think we're fine. I think we made the right choice with these folks, with local waste. There's a couple issues of it. I know Mr. King's aware of that. We'll get this taken care of. And most folks have a lot of people who had questions or big questions about the fuel surcharge and why did we switch? There were excellent questions. And once we explained it to them, they were fine with it. They said, okay, no problem. We're very happy. So I talked to real people and not just the Versatz people on Facebook. Oh, I had lunch at Rusty's Wharf for the first time. I don't know how I missed that. What a jewel. That place is awesome. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. It's great. Very friendly, nice service, quick service, great food.
Getting ready to move too.
I know they're moving now. They're not moving out, leaving the area. They're just gonna move farther south. So very good. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. I'll just back up real quick. The only thing I had was that on the 10th, which is Thursday, we are going to go through with the landscaping of the police station. So looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. And did you give that check to? We now have a check from Bullet Ranch, and we have a check from Tom Cower from Capital Engine, and the money that you've contributed. So we're at $1,100. So Andy.
Mm-hmm. That was one of my questions today, Mayor.
Okay, thank you so much, and we still look like we're gonna be, the total price for the trees is gonna be anywhere, could be as in the $4,000 to $5,000 range, maybe even less, so we're really gonna end up with a great deal, so. And if people ask you, you know, we'll keep that account open for, when folks say, hey, how can I help out the city? You know, the canines or the fireworks or the police station, equipment, physical fitness equipment, or the police station landscaping fund, so we'll keep chipping away at that, so.
I do have a termination date on my portion, I wanna tell you that.
Hard stop.
It is a hard stop.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Mr. Zetz,
I have nothing tonight, thank you, Mayor.
Mr. King,
I'm sorry, I was, just a couple, just a
Mr.
couple things, I
Nichols.
appreciate,
no, I'm just kidding, go ahead.
My fault.
Mr. King.
thank you, Mayor. Appreciate Todd's comments on the trash collection, you know, we had our first pickup, I think each week it's gonna get a little smoother, there are still waste management, cans throughout the community, they're sending another crew tomorrow to pick them up. If you hear from anybody about any, being out, encourage them to contact Jessica. She has contact with Waste Management and will be able to get those taken care of. I'm hopeful tomorrow that they're able to get everything picked up. I've received some calls about them and, told them directly about those. But I think with each week that passes, it's just gonna get a little smoother with, local waste services. Another thing I wanna mention is the Main Street project. A lot of conduit is in, they're starting to set some of the boxes down through there. Council saw from CenturyLink, originally we thought there was gonna have to be some sort of structure or anchor put in. That actually is not the case, so the hole at the corner of Depot and Main will be able to be removed without anything additional need to be there. I just need to coordinate, with AEP when they start to remove, to let CenturyLink know so they can schedule their removal of that pole as well. At the last meeting, there was a question about the supplemental appropriation, for for 175, for this Main Street project. It's being taken out of the TIF funding. There was a question what the original cost estimate was for that, and it was about $225,000. AEP is doing some more additional work that Chris Peters was originally gonna do, but after reviewing the plans and everything, it is work that AEP is doing. And last thing is, the executive session we have later this evening will be held upstairs with Mr. Schrock and Mr. Zetz and myself being invited into that, and happy to answer any questions council may have.
Yes, ma'am.
BJ, and I'm one of those individuals that have reached out to BJ because I still have my trash cans from Waste Management 2 weeks later. And they picked up the front half of my complex and just never came and finished the rest. And so then they sent a whole truck out just a couple days ago and picked up one house and left. So I don't know if that person complained, but I'm in a condo, so there's not a lot of room for trash cans. The other pickup went fine. I like the new recycle bin, it's handy. But, so my question is, since they were notified and then they said because they've already picked up other accounts, they couldn't come and get those cans because they totally pick up trash cans with the same trucks they pick up trash with,
Right.
whatever. After Tuesday, if my cans are there, then they should be mine. And I shouldn't have to rent anymore cause I need at least 2. And I haven't rented more yet from the new company, so they either need to come and get them, or we need to cut a cutoff date, cause enough's enough. They've had plenty of time.
Certainly contact them again in the morning to emphasize that.
I
and-
see them all over the place.
No,
Now,
no,
some
they're
people
coming
might
to
not
the
have had them out, you know, in time or whatever, but they're everywhere.
I did notice, I had noticed
Quite a few.
a few, green, the new cans seem to be everywhere. No one said to me they didn't have one. I didn't notice any houses that didn't have the gray and white cans, so.
I just received a report of
Some of mine and my sister's, so.
Okay.
2 houses not having their gray,
We
so.
didn't pick
I've
mine.
got a couple extras on the other ones.
We're the only
Mr.
two that
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah, Mr. Lee, you're not my area, so. Talk to your Ward 1 councilman a bit. I do have a question for Jamie, though, I think I know the answer, on the convenience fee that local waste charges. They charge you whether you use your credit card or whether you use a bank, a bank draft.
Right. What's the question?
The question is, I know the credit card said, credit card companies charge a convenience fee. I'm not aware of banks, maybe they do that. I know my bank doesn't, but,
I mean, a lot of times people will use a third party like Official Payments,
okay.
and for that, I don't want to say convenience, but for the convenience of them outsourcing it to a third party, the third party charges the fee.
You're talking about the business using a
Yeah.
third party, okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's
So
what I
like, for
thought.
example, if you go online and you pay, I think Mayor's Court fines online, or if you
Mhm.
pay on credit card online, there's a convenience fee that
Mhm.
you pay.
Parking tickets at Newark,
From experience?
just one.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else for BJ?
I got one thing, I just, update on, the AC at town.
I don't have one for you, but I'll get it.
Anything else? All right, Mr. Nicholson.
Thank you, Mayor. Big thing we're working on now is budget. I think as of today, we settled on where things are gonna look like for the presentation, so now we're developing a presentation and should have that out to you here in the not too distant future, in time for, before the next council meeting.
That it?
Yep.
Anything for Jamie? Yes.
Just to reiterate, the sooner that we get it, the better.
I
It's just
understand.
very helpful to have that, you know, there was I think an honor before the 16th. So
Yeah, that was the schedule call for, I'm hoping to have it before.
hopefully before, I appreciate
Drive.
it. Thanks.
My finance manager is on vacation this week, so I was payroll and month end and everything else, so. Tomorrow we pick it back up again.
Well, no one had to do that, is she?
I don't dare tell her no.
I understand.
She's close enough to retire, but I don't dare tell her no.
Anything else for Jamie? All right, Chris.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a couple things I want to hit. The first thing I want to talk about is the WRF upgrade. Followed up with the EPA to see where we were on our construction loan application. Last time we met, I had let you know that one of our reviewers had retired, and so we had a new project manager with the EPA. Now a second reviewer who does the environmental impact has retired, and so we've got two new people looking at it. So we went ahead and had a conference call with them. There is no way we're gonna make the award date of December of this year. They're anticipating an award date of February of next year. They did extend the 0% program, so we're not out anything there. It still would allow us to break ground in the spring, so we're not out anything there really, as long as this new deadline that the EPA has given us is met. So the plan will be to advertise bids in December and then get the loan award in February. Hydrant flushing was done the week of the 23rd. Everything went really well. Hydrants clear up in about 90 seconds here. Which is an indicator that we have a really clean system. We do the hydrant flushing every year. We don't have a lot of sediment in our system. The areas that are plastic, you don't get as much sediment in there. The cast areas in Old Town is a lot more susceptible to that. And they still clear up within 2 minutes of flushing, which is really good. Went through the whole thing. We found some minor deficiencies, small leaks that the system seems repairing now. Only one hydrant broke on us, so that's pretty good, successful flushing program for the year. We did have several water leaks since we last met. We had 2 service leaks where a hole formed in the copper, and we had a saddle fail in Beechwood Trails. When we dug that saddle up for repair, we found the saddle for the house across the street, which wasn't leaking, but it was in pretty bad shape, so we went ahead and replaced that so we wouldn't have to dig twice in this guy's yard. And then the last thing I want to hit on is the Main and Mill Street water line connection. That's scheduled to happen the 15th, 16th, and 17th. And it will require a complete shutdown of the intersection at Main Street and Mill Street. It's about a 60-foot trench to get from the water line in the middle of Main Street over to where we're connecting to on Mill Street. The schedule is the October 14th, we'll saw cut the pavement, but the road will remain open, just have flaggers around the saw. The 15th at 8 a.m., the road will be closed. That day we'll dig the trench, we'll connect the water line to the water main on Main Street and lay the pipe all the way up to Mill Street. The 16th we'll come in and make the connection. The reason we're waiting for a day is because we're not backfilling the trench until the 16th, and we don't want to pressurize the main without anything on top of it to hold it down. 16th we'll make the connection and then backfill with CDF We'll let that harden overnight. The 17th will come in 8 a.m. and put 8 inches of asphalt on top of it. As soon as that is cooled enough, we'll open the road back up to traffic. We've been working with Public Service Department to get signs. I believe some of the signs are already out there, giving people a heads up. We handed out notices today to everybody along Main Street from Mill back to Broadway and the residents on Mill Street, just to give them a more of a heads up on what was coming. So again, that's scheduled for the 15th to the 17th. It's going to be a major inconvenience for traffic, but there's no other way to get to that water line in the middle of the intersection. So outside of that, I don't have anything. Be happy to answer any questions.
Is that hydrant back in service?
The hydrant is not back in service as of yet. It'll be next week. It'll be back in service. Trent did notify the fire department that it was down, and he'll call them back when it's back in service, let them know it's useful again.
And ODOT and all the truckers and everybody's gonna know that that's closed.
Yeah, Mr. Haynes has already reached out to them twice and let them know what's going on.
Anything for Chris? Yes, sir.
Hey, Chris, I noticed in your report, the biosolids, the application in the fields,
Yes.
we're still working with the AgriSludge people to acquire knowledge on how they do this application and the paperwork and everything. How's that coming along?
We are, so it's working good. They're obviously they want to continue to do this themselves, but they're pretty open with their information on how they're doing things. The entire systems team, when we do get the fall application, is going to go out and watch the spread on the field. They have some farming knowledge with the tractor. What we're working on now is getting GPS knowledge, learning how to use the GPS device to drive the tractor and apply the solids. The goal is still next year to have it back in-house again, but this fall is going to be full AgriSludge to go forward.
And we had talked a little bit about maybe having that be a transition year where they're still hauling and we're applying
Yes.
and doing the stuff and doing the paperwork, but kind of a transition to get to that point.
Absolutely, and the hauling bit, I would like to talk a little bit more to the committee, but the hauling benefit, the speed and the lack of wear and tear, may be something we can look at that portion of carrying forward in the future, but the application, we're looking at next year of bringing it back in-house by the fall application.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Lee?
Yeah, I missed this, sorry. Where are we at with scenic view? It might be for Scott too. I know we'd given them a list of things they needed to do.
Right.
Just curious where we're at in that process.
We gave them that list. They were very receptive to the list. There were a couple tweaks that need to be made because of a wetland has gotten larger than originally thought. So there's a couple lots, 4, I think, or 5 lots that we wanted to put on the gravity system that we're going to allow them to use the force main system. But all in all, the requirements that we have for them, they were 100% on board with. They were fine with. So we drafted up language to include on all the documents as we discussed, the HOA agreement, all the plans, and then that language has been sent over for review with Mr. Zetz. So we'll get that language back, and then we'll meet with the developer again. And
Do they have to go back through planning and zoning, I would assume?
I believe they do. I'd like to
Yes.
pass Mr. Farmer.
Thank you, sir. Yes, they do, because when the proposed plan development gets to council, it's either a yes or a no. The way the code reads, council doesn't have the ability to add conditions or change anything, so similar to how Heron Manor had to go back to do an amendment, then come forward, that's what.
So we're probably looking at next year before we see it again.
A lot of variables, but if we're at October now, I probably wouldn't be too far off of an estimate.
All right, thanks.
And that's in reference to 4341 middle ground?
Correct.
That'll stay on the table. Okay, very good. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna have 2 quick questions. One's a comment, and it is, as Mr. Zetz gets done reviewing that, I would think it would be appropriate for us to, at that point, kind of have a utility committee meeting to look at it. So,
Not a problem at
for
all.
everybody that's on the utility committee, that's kind of what I've been waiting for, and thanks for bringing that up, Tommy. The other thing is, a kind of a combination question with Alan, and is the culvert work on Mill happening now?
It's done.
It's already done?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure how fast that was gonna happen, and I wasn't sure if it was gonna bleed into, the intersection being closed, because well, it doesn't make any difference anyway, does it? Because I didn't want somebody to try to go around the intersection and pick up Mill and try to go out to Columbia.
Right.
We want to get that done beforehand, and it is complete.
Good, that's exactly the question I had, so. That's my last question for you.
Anything else? Mr. Haynes?
Thank you, Mayor. Two pieces of legislation on for tonight. The first is Resolution 067. That is for fence along the Taylor Road Trail. Of course, as part of the project, a couple areas we noticed afterwards are lacking safety, if you will. So we've come up with about 400 feet of fence we'd like to add. We wanted to go with the same type of fence that was out there so it would match, so we went to the same company. The price they gave us is between $45 and $50 a foot, depending on the location. I actually checked the original contract, and it was about $70 per foot for the original contract, so we're actually getting a better deal than we were. And we're using, since we get the Mill Street culvert and also the Columbia Road culvert, we had $50,000 budgeted for each of those. By partnering with a local contractor where we did some of the trucking and materials, we were able to get both of those done for less than $10,000. So we had about $80,000 savings there. So we're using that to fund this project to add that safety fence is the plan. The next one is Resolution 068. That's for the Glenbrook subdivision retention basin outlet structure. We had 3 contractors come out and do a pre-proposal site meeting with us. One proposal came in at $24,000, one at $17,000, and the low bid was $15,000 and change. We did do a supplemental earlier this year for $10,000 for this project. Obviously, that doesn't quite cover it, but we do have savings in other areas, other projects, where we can cover that additional fee on that to get that completed. Again, that's so Monarch Road, Monarch Drive will not flood and freeze like it did last year, hopefully. And then I was going to report on the Mill Street culvert. We did Thursday and completed it Friday. That all went very well. And then finally, I wanted to request a street committee meeting for the next council meeting to talk about, before the next council meeting, to talk about the 2020 ramp and of course other things. Other than that,
Have you picked your roads for 2020?
we have a proposed set of roads. I did not bring that spreadsheet with me, but that's what we want to review. Yes.
Yes. Any questions for Alan? Yes.
Alan, on that item with the installation of the outlet structure, you said we had a supplemental already for $10,000.
Correct.
And in the ordinance, or the resolution, I'm sorry, the resolution, you're putting an amount not to exceed $15,650. Is there any, do you have any contingency in this? I mean, obviously, when they get in there, we don't know how this thing was built, obviously. The embankments and so forth. There's nothing, seems like there isn't anything in here for contingency.
We did not put anything in contingency. We did lump sum. We did the pre-proposal site meeting with all 3 contractors, so if any questions came up, they would all hear it, we could answer them. There was really very few questions. We did answer all of them at that time, so pretty comfortable with what we've got.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, okay. The other one I had with you was on the Taylor path. You know, I noticed in your report that we don't know, we think the project's over budget, but we don't know what the final over budget amount is.
Yes.
When do you think you might see that?
I would love to give you an answer to that. I've hounded ODOT to give us an answer not only on Taylor Road Trail, but on Mink Street as well. And all that I've been able to get from them is we're a little bit over budget. That's all I've been able to get from them. I've not received any hard numbers. I keep trying to say, are we 25,000? Are we 50,000? We think we're less than 50,000 on each one. That's all I've been able to get, but there's some things to finalize, and
And then, do we have a formula where we pay a percentage of that overage, or are we responsible for all overage?
I believe we're responsible for all the overages. We actually built some money into this year for being over budget at 50,000. So we were going to go ahead, and I think we'll have to go to council with that PO because it's over 10,000 to appropriate that money. At least have a PO open for it, because the way ODOT works, we probably won't find those numbers out even this year, unfortunately.
Didn't we have a road project that it was built about the same time the Appian Way was, and we just got the
State Route 310 repaving.
something, yeah, it was,
That was 5 years ago, 4 years ago.
It finished over 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and we just got the final.
We just got the final out of nowhere.
yeah, it
Closed the PO, no indications, anything.
okay, so, Mr. Walker's question is a good question, but
All right.
here we are.
Well, and
Go ahead.
And I will say, Alan and I both have, till we're blue in the face, have explained to ODOT that we cannot operate this way, because not one, they get it to us late. Second, they usually get it to us and say, we need this in a week, and we don't have council meetings scheduled during that time frame. So,
Well, and I'd only add that we're looking at spending nearly $20,000 more. We don't even know, so, I mean, if you had budgeted for 50,000 and it came in at 30 and we wanna spend another 20, okay, I can see that, but if it comes in at 70 and we've spent now another 20, that seems to be, I'm not gonna use the word, it seems to be premature to wait, but I understand what Todd's saying, we may wait until we're all gray and very old to find out what we owe. Okay, thank
I've
you.
certainly sent ODOT an email expressing our frustration with their operations.
Yep, fully understand.
But if that bleeds over to next year, we've got that money socked away, right?
which
Would have to be rebudgeted.
it would have, yeah, we'd have to do something, supplemental for it.
Yeah.
You've held out the money for this year.
50,000, yes. If it's more than that, then we would have to look to bottom line.
Mrs. Carter?
Well, and I know that not knowing the over budget amount and about to spend more is not ideal, but it's not, it's an issue of safety. It's not a matter of money. It's about, it needs to be done. In fact, I've gotten a number of follow-up questions, and thankfully I have some good relationships with the people who are upset about it, but, that I promised that those safety repairs are coming.
Mr. Hankin?
That was my question, and I'm glad you said that too, because I was gonna ask you if the fencing went through the street committee, is that correct? To do that, so I thank that committee for doing that work. I think the overage that we're talking about here isn't related to that, though, it's related to other things.
It would be its own, yeah, it's not as part of the original project, it's just the same area of the original project. It's
I mean, the
along
things that
back.
ODOT is going to tell us about aren't, I mean, they may be safety related, but I don't know if we know that for certain or not, so.
Yeah, they're totally discrete.
So, there.
Mrs. Carter?
And I think that my comment was more, I didn't want to not move forward with spending more money because we didn't know what future overages were going to be, was more of my, I wanted council to understand that this wasn't just, this is definitely an issue that needs to be addressed.
You know, this is money that we've decided to spend, it doesn't have anything to do with the ODOT mess that they have. We're gonna go out on a limb, we're gonna spend this, and again, Mr. Walters' point's a good one, but we just wait, you know, so, we'll see what happens.
Yes, sir.
You're absolutely right. I would say, you know, although this is for the trail, for safety, view it as an independent project from trail construction.
So there still might be some overages on Taylor taking away that.
Not considering this fence,
Okay.
yes.
And
there's-
also some overages on Mink.
Correct.
Okay. All right, got it.
That's what I was asking, if you had any idea. Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Eric, one more quick question. In the design itself, and I'm not debating the safety issue here, I'm not at all, because I know you guys have gone through this in the street committee. The engineer that actually did these plans, have you reached out to them to ask them what their thinking was in not putting this in there? I mean, here's my concern. You know as well as I do, that anything you put in the right of way that is deemed an obstruction is unsafe unless it's justified for certain reasons. And I'm just making sure we've justified that we're putting something in the right of way that, for safety, you know, obviously that's more, there's an importance to putting an obstruction in the right of way for safety. If that's been determined by the design engineer or by some independent, you know, reasoning, engineering.
No, I did not reach out to anybody on this. I did not reach out to them specifically. I have wondered why it wasn't included in the original project, because it seems pretty obvious that these should have been there. I guess when you look at things 2D versus 3D, maybe they just didn't catch it. But no, I have not sought any kind of independent verification.
Anything else for Alan? Okay, I know these guys are on duty, so would you introduce our newest officer to the force, please, Deputy Chief?
Yes, this is one of our newest officers, Janice Justice, and this is Council. She started on September 9th.
Oh,
She's about a month into the training.
I always, if it's a council night and they're out on the road, I'd like them to stop in and introduce themselves, and so, is it busy tonight?
Not really, no.
Okay. Knock on wood. All right, thank you. Thanks for stopping in.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, guys, appreciate it.
Okay, Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. Following the presentation of the draft comprehensive plan on September 16th, council indicated they would like to further review it with a workshop, so we'll just need a date and time for that, and I can get that set up. Also, there's the property located at 14587 Graham Road. The property is currently vacant, and it's in disrepair. I've attached a photo to the report showing you the situation you were in. Oddly enough, based upon our code, there are no code violations on the property. So to pursue reviewing the property as an unsafe structure, the code requires that a resident files a complaint in writing for the zoning inspector to inspect, or council tells the zoning inspector in writing to the clerk of council to go inspect the property, determine if it's unsafe. So tonight, I'm respectfully asking for a motion for council through the clerk to provide something in writing so the zoning inspector can go check out that property. We have been, I think Mr. Blake knows someone who is either the owner or related to the owner. We've attempted to be in contact with them. They have not turned on their voicemail on their cell phone, and all of our texts have gone unanswered. So unfortunately, we're kind of at this position to see if we can't get something done. Also, it's my understanding it's delinquent on taxes, so we have been in contact with the land bank to see if we can work something out that way.
And I would urge council, this is a, I'm sorry? Okay. I would urge council, because this house, is so dilapidated and it's very close to, a neighborhood, kids playing. The original guy that called me and said it was in, he saw kids trying to climb through there, and it's a mess, so.
What's the address? 14587 Graham?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sure that'll pop up when motion time comes tonight. Thank you, Scott. Anything else?
No, happy to answer any questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question, from the picture, it looks like there may be some zoning issues here, as far as mowing and that kind of stuff. Have we sent any kind of notices or posted anything?
It's over an acre and a half, so we
So it
can't do
gets, that's
anything
why.
with them. Yeah.
It's not, it's close by the neighborhood, it's not in the neighborhood.
It's
Okay,
on,
I
it's on the
understand.
corner and has lots of
Got
property.
it. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Anything else for Scott? So the guys that are selling new houses have a new trick. They gave up on the sticks. They now just attach their signs on the weekend to our signs, our city signs. So, again, if we can.
We might have to do I can talk with Steve about doing a weekend warrior day.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to back up real quick, and Alan, thank you for, well, I'll thank both of you, Lanier and Alan, thank you for your help with the power show. Couldn't do it without you. It runs smoother and smoother every year, and I do appreciate that. Can't do it by myself. Okay, Lanier, what you got for me?
Thank you, Mayor. First thing, Volunteer Park, our project is nearing completion. We have the basketball courts up, and also the surfacing on the court has been redone. We would be doing the lines this year, but I think it's best that we do all of them at the same time in the springtime, so we're gonna wait to do the lining on those once spring hits. Last Thursday, I met with Chris Saylor at the County Health Department discussing the tobacco-free and smoke-free policy in partnership with them. I'm hoping to have something drafted, finalized drafted. I've already sent it to Brian for review, so I'm hoping to have something on the next council meeting for the first reading to pass that for us. Next Tuesday, October 15th, the Parks Advisory Board and myself, we are having an open house forum. We'll be discussing community park projects and concepts that we completed this year. And we'll also discuss some programming that we currently have, give some numbers, and also see what the community actually wants to see in our parks, and also programming to see if any local businesses, any school officials, and even yourselves would like to be in attendance. That would be great, because overall, it's all about what they want to be real, and I'm hoping that we can have an audience in here to be able to give us an insight versus the back and forth dialogue with the current Park Advisory Board. And lastly, to piggyback onto that conversation, a few weeks ago, we met with the interim director of the Licking Park District, Richard Wall. He expressed a lot of interest in helping with future park projects, and he's hoping to help with the park project next year. So he will be coming to that meeting, and I'm hoping to have a lot of people here, because if they are more on board with one or two type of projects, they are willing to at least help us with those. So I'm hoping that we at least get that out, tell everybody in your wards that we have an open house, so.
Richard's a live wire, I think that'll help, with the situation, bringing us both together, so it was a good meeting.
It was a good meeting, and knowing Richard, I mentioned to Lanier that he may be the only person that I've ever met that may be able to match Lanier's energy level, so. He
Hoping we
is,
can make it work.
Very good.
he's something.
Questions for Lanier? Yes, ma'am.
Lanier, I would just encourage you, if you're looking for that kind of participation, to personally reach out to maybe the superintendents of the school districts and people directly to get there. I think if you just post a notice, there's no way that you'll get that.
I plan to get a flyer out and also take it out this week, at least to get something into the school districts, be able to get that invite.
Okay.
So that's my intention this week.
That meeting's the 15th here.
15th here at 7 p.m.
Anything else for Lanier? Yes, sir.
I was out at Foundation, Lanier, and I noticed that you have the cones are still up around the tank, the septic, the
Yes.
sanitary tank.
Yes.
Are you experiencing more settlement there, or what's going on
We
that isn't
actually-
finalized yet?
We had a lot of settling, and then before we had to put more seed down and more dirt, so we put more straw out. We also had an incident over the last few weekends ago where that top was cracked, so I got a new top crack, or on the way. So I put the riser on top of it to make sure that it was visible, moving forward.
It cracked from,
I'll take that one. We had a Power Show participant who was using the kitchen. In fact, I know a lot of folks drive up there anyway to unload the groceries so that lid.
so we don't have a traffic top on that, it's just a low, it's a,
I have a 6-inch riser on it now.
maybe
Before,
worthwhile putting a
yeah.
traffic top or traffic manhole on it that'll actually take, either tractors or, because those do go over that.
Do they have?
This is a heavier duty, it's a heavier duty casting.
Do they fit a plastic riser on it? This is like a plastic piece.
Mr. King,
We, working with,
EC Babbitt.
working with EC Babbert and Public Services Department, we can take a look at it, see if we can get
Maybe
that.
put something that can be driven over, since that'll be probably driven over 1,000
It
times.
seems like it might get driven.
Right. But it was,
Oddly enough, yes.
yeah, it was flush with the surface and there was straw and the gentleman didn't see it, so.
Okay.
We're
I just
working,
wondered what happened to it, I just wondered if we had a failure or something.
we're working with him to replace that, so.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else for Lanier?
That's all I got.
Very good. Deputy Chief Mike Bowles.
I only have a couple things tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
First off, we did have, over the weekend, some, power break-ins in the, Hazelwood and Settlement subdivisions. We were able to get some pretty good intel, and we were able to make 2 arrests on that today, so.
Awesome.
2 juveniles, were arrested and charged, with breaking into cars. We're still sorting through some of the property and trying to get it back to the rightful owners, but, it was good that we were able to solve that case.
Fantastic. Yeah, I know that popped up on the internet and people were frustrated and I know there was some footage. I don't know if they turned that into you or not, but,
Yeah, we do have plenty of footage.
very good.
So it's looking good
Awesome.
there. Obviously, you met, one of our, new officers, Janessa Justice. She started on September 9th, along with, Joshua Walker. He also started on that same day. We have, 2 others starting, Monday the 14th. It'll be Zachary Sarwood, he's gonna be a full-time officer, and, Drew Grant, who will be, part-time. However, probably within 2 weeks, he'll be transitioned full-time based on, another potential loss there, so. It's not official yet, but it's about as close as it's gonna be.
Anything for Mike, Mr. Lee?
Anything on the sugar mill break-ins? I know a few of us got emails on that. There was,
Nothing at this time.
did they end up filing reports like we asked them to?
Some do, yeah, not all, but some do.
So, curious. They don't file a report.
You know, they put it on the internet, and I've stressed to them before, you know, I don't mind you putting it on the internet, but make sure we're, you know, somebody steals some change out of your car, and the next car might be a stereo or whatever, so why wouldn't you? You gotta report it, we gotta have some history, we gotta have some information, so.
Well, more importantly, along those lines too, if we know that, you know, something happened in this area, there might be somebody there with video. So maybe they only took some change out of your car, but we might be able to get a good description, of the potential suspects from that area, so.
Very good. Anything else for Mike?
I just wanted to say, if you could pass along to the guys that their, assistance at homecoming at Heights last weekend was wonderful. It was wonderfully uneventful. Very low-key, they helped us clear out quick, and as always, I mean, just the relationship with the kids and how they come about is always great, so
I will certainly pass that on.
definitely appreciate it.
I think we're also getting ready to start a, Police Citizens Academy alumni class.
Yeah, I believe that's coming up.
Police Citizens Academy, I'm sorry, not
Citizens
alumni.
Police Academy.
That
Yeah,
starts
it'll be
this,
the first one in the new building, so I think there's a lot of excitement based on that.
yeah, first one in the building, I think we've got 15 or 20 folks signed up.
I'm not sure on the numbers.
Yeah, it's gonna be our largest class, and of course, it's perfect timing to have it right over there, so, we're excited, very excited. Yes, sir? Oh, go ahead.
We have been getting plenty of compliments on the new building. I know AEP hosted a training there recently, and they're very pleased with the facility and that would.
And I think Jamie, you enjoyed it too, didn't you?
Yep, we had a good training out there, workout board meeting, and went real well.
Yep, it's quite an asset. Yes, sir.
At one point, we had talked about having a council meeting in that building, just as part of it, just to showcase to the public. I know there were some technical problems with recording, and I know that, do we have that capability now, that we could record the meeting if we had it there?
But we don't have any means to record over there, so I don't know if there's anything, I don't know if the recording system over here could be used. I'm not sure.
All I have is a little small pocket
Okay.
recorder that I can take.
We could do it.
We could do it. Well, I'll talk to Kathy about it, but we had talked about doing that just to show, announce it, showcase it to the public. In other words, of, you know, showing off the building, because it's a beautiful building, so, okay. Okay, okay.
Very good. Anything else for Mike? Thank you, sir. Committee chair reports? Any? Yes, ma'am.
I was tagged to give the development committee report, but I'm gonna say it takes a village, so I'm gonna let Scott go since Mike's not here. And I had no notes prepared, but we've basically been talking about the design standards for some time. We've made tweaks to them, we've asked a lot of questions, and essentially a motion to come to council with them. And because I think we have the desire for everyone to review those and to get council's feedback. And I know personally, I have said I would like to have maybe a special meeting on that, not that I'm loving extra meetings, but I think we need some time dedicated just to that particular issue, so fill in the blanks.
We could certainly do that. The recommendation from the development committee was to send those on to the planning and zoning commission.
Okay.
So planning and zoning commission will receive those. They will be on the November 6th agenda. Once they review those, they'll provide a recommendation to council, and that should be sometime, depending upon how it lines up, in December or potentially January for the first meeting, or first reading, excuse me, public hearing and first reading before council. So on September 16th, we provided a PowerPoint based upon Canal Winchester standards and kind of went through, and I believe this was sent to council, but went through and provided visual examples of the definitions, because there were a lot of architectural definitions, and some of the design concepts in there for development committee to review. Based upon their comments, I went back and updated the standards so they would fit into our code and address those comments. At the September 30th Development Committee meeting, the Development Committee recommended that we move this along to Planning and Zoning Commission to start the code amendment process.
Exactly.
Anything else?
No, I just think that it would be helpful at some point when that does come to council for that same presentation to be given to the whole of council, with the explanations and some of the, when you break it down into English.
Fair enough?
So,
Short-nosed taxes.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of fun things that I was trying to Google, so. I just feel like we have a lot going on between comprehensive plan and design standards. And I mean, we have a lot of moving parts when it comes to code and stuff in the city. And it makes me just personally feel a little unsteady, like I need to wrap my head around all of it. So, and I feel like we're piecing at it and it makes it hard to see it as the whole.
Yes, sir.
I'll take a stab at it. I think, to me, the comprehensive plan would come first. I think, because that's the comprehensive plan.
Well, I think the idea with the design standards was that, because we have so many, developers coming in now, and they don't really have an idea of what it is we're looking for. And I think Andy can probably.
Just one more thing to mention, Todd, just because I asked this question directly to Scott, the existing comprehensive plan actually recommends that we have design standards. So I think you could go either way. You could do it contract first and then the design standards, but under the existing, this recommends that we have design standards. So I think this is a good position to do this. I also think that in the committee's discussions, we really felt confident that this was answering a lot of the concerns of quality, of getting builders in here that, wanted to bring up the standards in Pataskla. And not only was this, and I think we complimented Scott for getting a code that wasn't overwhelming. The design standards weren't so costly to the developers. The Canal Winchester's was a good one, and they had just done this, 2 years ago? Roughly, a year and a half
Within the
maybe?
last year or so. they
So we've
passed
kinda
it.
got this guinea pig out there that's got all the comments already, and I wanna add one more thing. I've actually talked to two of the builders that are currently here in Pataskla, and they're aware of the Canal Winchester, and they say they are, standards that, the development world can live with.
Okay.
So that's the feedback I've gotten from them. So I'm pretty happy and confident that I think, this will go far as far as what we need to do to answer some of our
That makes sense.
council's concerns.
Okay, all right, well, thanks. Makes sense. Cool.
Okay. Any other committee chair reports?
Yes. HR committee, last, council, I think it was at the special meeting, I passed out the, evaluations. I think, Mr. Lee and Ms. Hayes were not here, maybe, so they should be on your desks. So just work on those. I apologize for not getting it out sooner, but obviously the personal issues in the spring, I'm just not getting caught up on a lot of stuff, so. Sorry about that, but those are for 2018. That was a good question, Mr. Lee. So you can turn those in to me or to Mr. Powell or to Mr. Hickett, who I believe is the third member of the committee. And if he's not, he is now.
He certainly is looking surprised. But I appreciate the,
Sure. And those are for, those are for Mr. Zetz, for Jamie and for DJ. Thanks.
Any other committee chair reports? Seeing none, on to unfinished business. Ordinance 2019-4346 for a third reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hicken. Kathy, when you're ready, third reading.
Ordinance 2019-4346, this is the third reading, an ordinance to approve current replacement pages to the Pataskla codified ordinances.
Discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move we adopt ordinance 2019-4346.
Got a motion to adopt.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion?
And roll.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes?
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Ordinance passes. Ordinance 2019-4347 for a second reading.
So moved.
Moved
Second?
by Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Hicken. Kathy, when you're ready, second reading.
ordinance 2019-4347. This is the second reading, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019.
Discussion? Yes, sir.
You had mentioned earlier, Mayor, in your presentation that this landscape is going in next week.
Going in this week.
This week, I'm sorry.
Yes.
This week.
Mhm.
And this is a supplemental to pay for that landscaping? Do we need to do anything to move this along faster to make sure that these monies are appropriated for this?
No, because the gentleman who's buying the trees will get an invoice, give it to BJ, and then we can pay it when this is done. But we don't.
I'm kind of,
Just to clarify, I'm comfortable certifying it on a purchase order because the police have enough other budget. So if council were to deem that not to be acceptable, basically they would have lost that part of their budget. Does that make
I'm
sense?
just making sure
Yeah.
you're okay with it.
And it becomes effective immediately once council approves it.
Right.
So it will be okay.
Thanks.
Thanks for making sure there, yep. Okay, that was second reading. Any other discussion? Okay, resolutions, motions, new business,
Mr.
ordinance.
Mayor,
Yes.
for ordinance 438, I will be recusing myself from that discussion based on my employment with this ordinance.
4348, for the record, Mrs. Carter is recusing herself, so,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
and for the record, on 4349, due to employment with Southwest Licking, I too am recusing myself for the Southwest Licking portion.
Okay, so, and for the record, Councilwoman Hayes will be recusing herself from 4349, so. Here we go, ordinance 2019-4348 for a first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Lee. Kathy, when you're ready.
Ordinance 2019-4348, this is the first reading, an ordinance approving a memorandum of understanding with the Licking Heights Local School District in connection with possible property tax exemptions in the Pataskla Corporate Park, as expressed in the attached Exhibit A.
Discussion? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and bring this up now. I know this is the first reading on this, and I know Tim and Tommy have worked extremely hard to put this together with the two school districts. You know, in looking through this and in talking with Tommy a little bit about it, I'm at a loss at why this is helpful to the city, quite frankly. It is, in my opinion, when I look through this, you know, there are a lot of things in here that are troubling, and I'm not, and again, I know this is a difficult discussion that Tim and Tommy had with this, but, you know, as I read through their conditions, for this, for the school's district's consent, we're really not even getting their consent. This is a pre-consent, essentially. These things have to happen before they will consent, and even though they might happen, the school district still has the ability to say that, and I'll just go to E as my item here, the city shall provide the school district, blah, 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 for any other political subdivision and owner of abated property, essentially before they will approve it. So, is this an approved, is this a consent, or is this something that they say, if you don't do any of this stuff, we're just not gonna do it. We can opt out essentially, and I guess that's
Mr. Lee, you
one
have
of
an
my
answer for that?
questions.
Yeah, I can take a stab at that. BJ or Tim hop in here. We've essentially memorialized state statute. Other than that, what you're speaking of is a little different. The way I understand it, and Tim and I clarified this, is we have essentially our half of, on the $1 million payroll, which is 100, we would give 100% of our half. They're willing to give 88% of their half. The 12% can be earned through negotiation with the school and the company. That doesn't stop us from giving our half, and they're willing to give 88% of their half. They want the opportunity to negotiate with the company. That's something that's important to them. And it really doesn't, I guess you could say, doesn't really affect us as far as our negotiating.
Well, can I just stop? Because I
Sure.
think that's a great place to stop, because it
Sure.
actually states that it's not a negotiation with them. It says the applicable property owner shall pay the school district an amount equal to 12%. And then it goes on to say if they don't pay it, the city owes it. So not only would we be giving our half, but we would be paying 12%, or however you want to look at it, percentage-wise, of their half. That's, I mean,
I don't have it right in front of me.
Mr.
but
Kane?
I'll let BJ take that.
You know, a couple of clarifications I wanna make. E that you referred to,
Yeah.
it does say that it would be whether this agreement's in place. If somebody came to us with a,
So what, my point is, what's the purpose of the agreement?
well, purposes of the agreement, first of all, is for expedience sake when we're talking to developers. You know, they come in, some of the things asked, what's the water capacity, sewer capacity, electric, and is there an abatement? And, you know, right now we can just say, yeah, it's eligible for one. You gotta go talk to the schools. Having an agreement in place certainly makes us more competitive than we are now and competitive with our surrounding communities. The 50-50 that Tommy's referring to in the 88%, those are two different things we're talking about. The 50-50 is a 50-50 split on the city's 1% income tax. This does not include any sharing of our jet income tax.
Correct.
The 88% is based on property tax value, and the school's saying, hey, company can come to us, and if they come to us and they say, yep, we'll agree to pay you 12%, an amount equal to 12% of the property taxes you would otherwise be due without an abatement, we'll agree. Or, if you don't agree with that, you'll have the opportunity to come talk to us, see if we can negotiate something else. So essentially, I'm looking at this as 50-50 income tax, or city income tax share, when nothing would be approved by the school unless there's at least $1 million payroll, you know, an abatement for a property. And then, looking at this, an 88%, essentially an 88% property tax abatement.
But they can earn the full 100.
They
Through that
can
negotiation.
either,
Not what it says.
you can't earn 100, they're gonna owe it, whether it's a property tax or some other payment in lieu of, or any other thing they wanna give to the school district in amount equal to that.
And then would you agree that, DJ, that this says if the developer doesn't agree or if the developer doesn't pay it, and I could go further and say if they just don't agree to it, the city's gonna pay it. Is that correct?
If the city chooses to, if you go on, it says the city.
Grab that swear jar.
The city, boy, I'm turning red right now. The city shall
I'm gonna
either,
get a drink.
the city shall either terminate the CRA, or the city can choose to pay that. I don't see a scenario where the city would choose to pay that, the city would choose to terminate the CRA.
Okay.
I mean, I would agree with that. I would also say, you, having been involved with this and having, had the goal of getting the piece of paper, if you wanna call it that, that can be handed to businesses that are coming in. I was recently reminded that when Grolikin County was here, somebody up here pointedly asked them, why isn't there somebody in a corporate park yet? And one of the answers was, because you don't have an agreement with your schools. Now, you can say that this isn't the very best agreement with the schools that we could possibly get. And I agree with that.
I might agree with BJ's slip up there. It's because we don't have sanitary. That might be another reason.
Let's
that-
want it to
Well,
that might be a
I
problem.
mean, we can.
But I, forget Nate for a second.
Yeah. I
Because
mean,
really, you know, we're talking about an agreement, whether we want to enter into this or not, and, you know, do we really want to enter into an agreement that, and I'm gonna go on, because I think there's some other things here. You know, if there's an offset, and I don't know that we have an offset on our income tax, is there? Okay, if there ever was an offset on our income tax, we pay the offset to the school. That's what this agreement says. And that bothers me. If we give somebody a credit on an income tax for an offset working somewhere else, in section B, it says that we have to pay the schools that offset, that we're giving to their employees. That doesn't seem like a good idea in my mind either. Anyhow, I guess, I
Actually, that's
wanna
what I
throw it
had-
out there, and I know this is our first reading, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to kinda throw it out there for the discussion to start.
And, Mr.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Tim brought up a great point too, is, you know, is this the perfect agreement? No, it's not. I think that a couple things to keep in mind is, we do get to keep our jet. I think that's a big thing, we don't have to forfeit any of that. And this is for the entire CRA, it's not just for the JRS. So it's that big block. And, you know, I've asked, people that do this for a living, because I certainly don't, is, hey, what do you think of this? Does something like this work that doesn't just, you know, obviously what we would want is a piece of paper that says, we're gonna give you 100% abatement. That would be the goal. We can't get there. They want the ability to negotiate. Okay, fine. This is the best we can do. And, apparently, and I didn't know this, that that type of agreement is common out there with other municipalities, where they're not all, what they called it was a pre-96. 1996 is when the state statute took place, where you are mandated to share 50-50 over $1 million payroll. And those that have agreements that are pre-96, there's where you can come in and we have some, I guess you could call it leverage if you want to. But after 96, which we are obviously, we don't have a lot of leverage. And this is, in my opinion, we would all love to have a 100% agreement, but this is the best we can get. And, you know, to take Mr. Strum's word, we have two key things that are holding us back from development. You know, obviously the sanitary and not having an agreement. And while it might not be the best, it's an agreement. And, you know, I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Now, I would also add, sanitary is holding us back within the framework of the entire CRA. This, the people that service this area, the Southwest Licking Sewer and Water, had to certify that they had sewer to the job-ready site.
Right.
And while this would include the job-ready site, there are some questions about the entire CRA and service.
Yeah, and I apologize for getting us off on that.
That's okay.
No,
That's the wrong,
Yeah.
that's the wrong
I-
track.
I'm particularly not happy about that either.
No, I'm with you. I think it's a great point.
Yeah, I looked at this and I thought, well, are we better, in essence, the question that I gotta ask, are we better off having this agreement to give to prospective users that might come to the corporate park? Or are we better off negotiating when that happens? And when I look through this, there are several things that give me, you know, concern that we're kind of, we may be giving away more than necessary and certainly more than statutorily required to get this agreement.
Well, if there's something in there that we didn't consider that maybe we can change, I'm down with that. If you wanna, I think that, and the good part about this is, although some of the, obviously, you heard Tommy say it's tough to get to where we're at, these have been tough give and take meetings going back and forth. I don't think that if something is brought up and we say, wait a minute, if this happens, it damages the city, it's not fair. My experience for the most part has been, as long as it does not affect them, they're willing to, you know, to make that change. Now,
Okay.
I'll need to get in the weeds and see if that is what we're talking about here or not.
Mr. King?
Tommy wanted to.
I just want to say, you know, Andy, your point is spot on, because we all discussed, you know, frequently, is this better than nothing? We had that conversation multiple times, and I guess when you think about this agreement and you think about having nothing, the same thing is going to happen if we have nothing. We're going to tell them what we have. They're gonna have to negotiate with the schools. So essentially, in my opinion, yes, it's better than nothing. That's just me.
Mr. King?
What it does is provide some assurance to a company who's coming and talking to us. It may not be 100%, but they know what they're dealing with when they're seeking an abatement. You know, I don't in the environment of development, whether good, bad, or otherwise, companies are going to seek someplace where they can get an abatement. Certainly are. And this does provide some assurance up front that, hey, you know, if you wanna pay 12%, you can go ahead. It's not the best. 100% would probably be the best and the easiest. That's the full package when we're looking at this. You know, the 50% share of the income tax, that's consistent with state statute, and something we'd have to pay absent an agreement.
After $1 million,
After $1 million.
After $1 million, this is $1.
But if you also read this, the school's not gonna approve an abatement for anything without $1 million or more.
Well, at least not under this agreement.
Under
That's
this
correct.
agreement,
Right.
right.
Understand.
Tommy was correct about the post and pre, pre-1996, CRA agreements, the schools didn't have any say in. And the reason the state statute was written the way it is because the schools didn't have any say in. Now almost the power has been shifted to the schools because anything above 50% abatement, the schools have to agree to.
I understand.
So.
No, I understand
it's-
fully
yeah.
how this works.
Yeah, I know
I'm
you
just saying
do.
that, and I know it was, I know Tim and Tom worked very hard on it, and it's not an easy discussion, and to get to something on paper is miraculous alone. There's a few points in here that I would just wanna make sure we're on the table as we do the first reading, that's all.
And I would just, I would end on this, I believe that, you know, I don't know how long ago this was put out, but if there's any of those comments, please shoot them to us, email or whatever, because, as far as I know, we haven't got any feedback on it. So, we'd love to hear those things, so we can work on that.
Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
So, well, I mean, folks who've been on council with me for years know how I feel about these tax abatements. In a nutshell, they're great for the schools, they're great for the company, they're a bad deal for the people who work there and for the taxpayers. Don't forget, pull out the JED agreement. We don't keep all of the JED tax. Part of the JED tax goes to the entities, the schools, fire department, who lose tax dollars, property tax dollars, is how they fund themselves by and large. And that's made up for in part by the JED tax. So this is and it's a double dip for the school district. It's a double dip. And they're the ones who get the biggest benefit out of this, because in this agreement, they can make some sort of side agreement with the company for something. And in fact, my understanding is Licking Heights has done this, or has some sort of tentative agreement with the development that's on Cleveland Avenue, where that developer, maybe I'm wrong, I'm sure that the Licking Heights people will yell at me, as they have before, at meetings, whether if I'm wrong, but they're going to give Licking Heights schools a practice field or something, as part of some sort of agreement. So that's an example. So, it's not a great agreement. There's some problems. I have some problems with it. I'll talk to Mr. Hicken and Mr. Lee about it, but that's my take on it. It's set up by the state of Ohio to be a bad deal, for the city, or cities, and for the taxpayers who live in those cities, and the folks who work in these JED districts in Marchwood. So I'm not sure if I'll support it or not. And again, I should have started off by saying, I mean, I appreciate all the work that Mr. Lee and Mr. Hicken did, and the council members that I highly respect. And I know they put a lot of hard work, and I know Mr. King put a lot of work into this, but,
And Mr. Nicholson as well.
okay, Mr. Nicholson, but it's not that, I'm not trying to be disrespectful of the work that was put in by council members and city officials. It's just that this is a bad, it's set up. I mean, we're just set up in a bad situation. So I'm not sure if I'll support it or not, but we'll see where it goes. Thanks.
Any other discussion on the first reading? Yes, Mr. King?
I just wanted to, Todd's right, we don't keep all of the JED money, we get about 51.5% of total collections. The top portion goes to the county to pay off roads, and the way JEDs are set up, the income tax rate that you rent, essentially, they get some collections off that. The JED that we have, the schools are not a party of those collections in that.
Okay. I'll go back and look. I thought they were getting.
They're not in the.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion?
All right, ordinance 2019-4349 for a first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Lee. Kathy, when you're ready.
Ordinance 2019-4349, this is the first reading, an ordinance approving a memorandum of understanding with the Southwest Licking Local School District in connection with possible property tax exemptions in the Pataskla Corporate Park as expressed in the attached Exhibit A.
Discussion? All right, ordinance 2019-4350 for a first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Lee. Kathy, when you're ready.
Ordinance 2019-4350. This is the first reading, an ordinance amending section 171.03, imposition of tax of the codified ordinances of the city of Pataskala.
Discussion? All right.
Just so council knows, I mean, this is just there's really two parts to it. One, you have to amend the language in the actual, what the words say to increase the tax. And I worked with Jamie to get that language. Once you get to the third reading, there will be an extra resolution on there that actually then sends it to the ballot. So that'll come at the third reading of the ordinance. We'll add that resolution to the agenda, so it all takes place at one time. Since the resolution only requires one reading, we have to wait to get that to the third ordinance reading.
Yeah, at some points in this, it talks about, it refers to us as the village.
Well, I don't know who wrote that, it's horribly mistaken.
I'm just saying.
I'll
Yeah.
check that, sorry.
Just small point.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, it's right here, section 2.
Because I actually must have just wrote that by accident, so I didn't cut and paste that from anywhere. Okay, great.
On to resolutions. Resolution 2019-067, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to execute a contract with the MP Dory Company for installation of fences along the Taylor Road Trail.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion? Yes.
Yeah, Alan, I just want to ask, just for clarification here, are these fences in right of way or are they outside of right of way?
They will be within the right of way.
Okay. And are you comfortable with placing these without having the design engineer or potentially another, and certainly just asking you for your opinion, are you comfortable placing these obstructions in the right of way without having some kind of stamp plan or some other reasoning for putting them in?
The short answer is yes. 3 of the 4 locations are either on the backside of the sidewalk or far enough away from the road that's not a concern. 1 is close to the road, but in my opinion, the safety for the pedestrians trumps the fence location.
Just making sure. Thanks.
Any other discussion? Kathy, roll please.
Carter,
Yes.
Walther,
Yes.
Barstow. Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes?
Lee,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2019-068, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to execute a contract with Spenco Excavating, Inc. for the installation of an outlet structure on the Glenbrook Subdivision Retention Pond.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion? And this is the pond that's in Citizens Park.
It's the pond that's upstream to the pond in Citizens Park.
There's a
There's 2
2
ponds
pond
in the
system.
series.
Understood. Any other discussion? Roll please.
Walther,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes?
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2019-069, a resolution imposing a temporary moratorium on the acceptance of any new preliminary development plans.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion? Yes.
Yeah, BJ, I've got a couple quick questions on this. You know, I know in the recent past, we've talked to a consultant about bringing in some plans for an impact fee. I know they revised their proposal. Where does that stand now?
Council directed the administration to, an RFQ for that, and the RFQ will be completed this week and advertised.
So when do you think, so the 6-month moratorium that you're proposing here, when do you think we'll have, you know, I know the comprehensive plan didn't go necessarily as planned.
Right.
We had tried to put it out there and get it done within a year, and we're well over that. As this impact fee discussion evolves, and we're holding up development plans in waiting for potentially an impact fee that would be approved, the 6 months, do you feel like we will have something as far as an ordinance for impact fees to us? In what time frame do you think that'll happen?
Absolutely, I think 6 months certainly is reasonable to do that, having talked to some folks, 4 months to create it, so about a month to advertise, get it to council for authorization and acceptance of a contract, and then kick it off for the plan, and then ultimately it'll come back to council for adoption of that program.
So,
So yes.
So the residents or the owners of large tracts that are gonna be on a hold essentially for 6 months until this comes in, if I'm just trying to make sure I can answer them when they ask me why, we have a moratorium. Moratoriums are very taboo essentially in the development world, especially when it gets out there that it's known that we have a moratorium for reasons such as an unknown impact fee. We don't know what that impact fee will be. We don't even know if we'll have one. So I guess my opinion on this, and I'm just gonna state, is this is premature at best. We don't have a consultant that's gonna put an impact fee together for us. We don't even know if we're gonna approve it yet. And yet we're going to tell these residents, these tract owners, these large tract owners, that you can't bring anything to us until we figure out some of these other things, which we don't know. So, I mean, this was discussed probably 2 years ago. We talked about a moratorium because we had too many loans. And then now we're talking about a moratorium because we want to talk about impact fees that we don't even know about yet. We don't know what we're going to do on that yet. So, this was a surprise to me to see this on tonight's agenda, and I find that hard to support. So that's my opinion.
Yes, ma'am.
In short, the idea behind this is simply to allow us to get some design standards in place so we can, and not have a mad rush of people putting in applications prior to, now that they see we're trying to impose design standards.
Well, the reasoning behind it was impact fees. They didn't say anything about design standards.
But the last conversation was with design standards, and I mean.
Okay.
Mr. King, clarify?
Yes, one of the driving forces behind this is for the impact fees. Andy, to your point, are we gonna have them or are we not? I strongly believe that and I said this before, in order to have an environment that we can accommodate the development that we are being faced with, we need to program impact fees to be able to start improving our roadway system too. I had this discussion just today with a developer, is trying to do something and, doesn't wanna do a traffic impact study, wants to phase this. We need to start addressing our roadway infrastructure to be able to accommodate the development that we are being faced with. So we're not stuck with the issues once people move here calling us and saying, hey, what are you gonna do to improve, the capacity of your roadway system?
Well, as we get into discussion, as we get into discussion of impact fees, I think you're gonna see this open Pandora's box against impact fees. Because what you're gonna find is we're gonna collect impact fees from developments that may not need improvements right now at their intersections or in their roadways. We're gonna go over somewhere else and improve something, and when they do need something in front of their development, they're gonna come knocking on the door and saying, guys, we paid you an impact fee. You need to fix this, you need to put in a turn lane, you need to do these things because we've already paid you. So I think there's gonna be a lot of discussion back and forth on how to handle that. And we don't know what, so I got it. I understand where you guys are.
This moratorium is a safety-based moratorium, so that we can look at the impact fees and at design standards. This is a health and safety-based moratorium, so that we can figure out what we're gonna do here. Safety of our roads, safety of our citizens. higher standards for housing. So that's what it's designed to do, so, you know.
Todd, I respectfully disagree. It says in here very clearly, the city to miss opportunities to collect much-needed impact fees. That's what it says the reason for this moratorium is. Not health and safety. It says we need to have the opportunity to collect money.
But the money goes to improvements at intersections, other infrastructure improvements that reflect on the safety of the traveling public. So that's the impetus, in my view, behind this, is to see what we wanna do with this. We had this discussion, and I can't remember the name of the development, Whispering Pines or whatever the heck it was, I don't remember anymore, down on Refugee Road. That was the big topic, the big discussion topic was, what's all the traffic, what is the traffic impact gonna be on Refugee Road and the intersections at Summit and at Mink? One of which we don't even control, or excuse me, it's Refugee and Summit, Refugee and Mink, we don't even control Refugee and Summit. So that, to me, that's what this is about. It's not about the collecting of money goes to improving safety at these types of things. So that, to me, that's why we're doing the moratorium. I don't know if we're gonna have impact fees or not. I don't know, we haven't gotten that point yet. You know, to that extent, Mr. Walters correct, so.
Mr. Hicken?
Well, I would say that is exactly how I read it. I read it as we're looking to figure out a way to get that health and safety stuff. I think saying, that there's a possibility that we may end up opening a Tempest in a Teapot could also be correct. Wouldn't be the first time that a Tempest has been opened, but for me, I'm gonna be on record as saying that I support this, just to see if we can solve it, because when we attempted to solve the issue of impact fees, what we found was they were much more complex, I think, than at least I originally thought. I thought we were almost gonna do this is how the neighbors do it, take the word X out and put the Pataskala in, but it's not. It's much more complex than that. And you talk about places where we abut townships. How do you collect impact fees in those instances? Maybe you can't, I don't know. But in each of those, that I sat down and thought about, okay, here's one going in, what, are we gonna be able to get impact fees for this new development and improve the infrastructure as a result of it? The answer is absolutely no until we solve that problem. It'll never be yes. So just going forward until we say we're gonna figure it out, for me, was a dangerous, might be too strong a word, but I definitely looked at it in that vein, so that's where I'm at. I'm not scared of trying to figure out, what we're gonna do and then how we're gonna manage impact fees, if that's where we get to. If we do impact fees, I'm sure that we'll look at it and we'll come up with a good plan to manage them so that we have safer roads, safer streets, whatever that intersections, whatever that other types of infrastructure issues. We had the same. How soon we forget? We had the same issue with Licking Heights high school expansion and building. It's the same. That was what we talked about a lot, was the traffic impact. Good heavens, we talked about that forever. So that's what I'm concerned about.
Mr. Lee?
Yeah, a lot of great points brought up, and I think earlier, Mel said it, that, we've got a lot of stuff coming at us. And, this specific resolution is for impact fees, but again, also, Mel said, if this is adopted, that if the reason for it is safety, but there's other benefits, such as it gives us time to do the design standards. That's not what this is for, but this is a benefit of that. So it's for safety.
I'll just remind council, the very last whereas clause sums it up very nicely. It actually is for everything. It's for discussion and consideration of needed zoning amendments, impact fee, and that's the necessity of impact fees, as well as the updated comprehensive plan. I mean, this sort of ties a bow on getting all those safety and health issues, all of those. It is for all of them, it's not just impact fee driven.
Exactly, I think it gives us a chance to take a breath and make wise decisions and not have to be rushed is the way I see it, so.
Mr. King?
And I think this gives us an opportunity to get all those attempt to get all those tools in place that we need in order to manage a well-developing community that can accommodate and build, like I say, build an environment that can accommodate the growth that we are seeing.
That's what the residents are asking for, to plan and build wisely. So I think we're on the track. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Walter,
No.
Barstow.
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter.
Resolution passes. On to motions. Motion to authorize the distribution of funds from the fire escrow fund.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion? And roll.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell, oh, excuse me.
That's right. Motion passes. Any other motions? I think we'll get, yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I move that council direct the clerk of council to prepare a written directive pursuant to section 1315.01 of the Pataskala Codified Ordinances, instructing the zoning inspector to investigate the property located at 14587 Graham Road here in Pataskala to determine if the building is unsafe.
Got a motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion?
Could I get a copy of that?
He's got it.
I got it. I'll show it to you.
Okay.
Discussion? And roll, please.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Barstow.
Yes.
Motion passes. Any other motions? All right, additional citizens' comments. Anybody wish to speak? Okay, what do you got for me, Mr. Barstow?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we go into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G3 for a conference with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending court action. Invited into the executive session are B.J. King, City Administrator, Brian Zetz, Law Director, and Chris Sharp, Utility Director.
Got a motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion and roll.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Barstow, Hayes,
Yes.
He got you fair and square that time.
He did, he did, he did.
Okay, executive session at 8:38. We're going upstairs.
No, but I'm trying not to see what the score is.
Oh, no, don't say anything.
Who is he?
all right, now we're okay.
See who wins the race here.
Motion to
Need a
come out of
motion?
executive session.
Second.
We have a motion to come out of executive session and seconded. Kathy, roll please.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Barstow.
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Okay, out of executive session at 9:19. What do you got, Tommy?
Well, I got nothing.
Suzanne?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Andy?
Just that the Haunted Forest has started. It is October. It's fantastic. It is kid-friendly this year, family-friendly, and it was a great weekend out there to kick it off, even though there was a high state game on. If you get a chance, come out. It's a heck of a lot of fun. I've heard more blood-curdling screams for just good, scary, fun stuff in the forest. It was a lot of fun. So that's all.
Mr. Zetz?
Nothing.
Mr. Barstow?
Nothing, sir.
Mrs. Carter?
Because surprisingly, I have nothing.
I have two things.
Wait a minute, I just want to make sure on the record. Mrs. Carter,
about
you
the
have
breakfast?
nothing?
Mrs. Carter has nothing. Mr. Hicken, what do you got?
The first one's very fast. Tomorrow and Wednesday, the entire Southwest Licking, third grade classes will be in here being taught government. Anybody is welcome to attend, and if a council member shows up, they'll treat you like a rock star. I'll say, this is XXX, and this is what they do, and they'll fawn over you, and they just absolutely love it. So everybody is invited to that. The other thing has to do with some of the procedural stuff and some of the stuff that was discussed tonight, especially with the schools. Nobody up here needs to say, I'm sorry, I know you guys put a bunch of work into this, but I disagree with it. For me, I expect that that's everybody's job. You agree to do what you do it as hard as you can. Sometimes you get easy and you just put up a new flag that honors our fallen, and nobody has any problems with that. Sometimes you go into very in-depth, complicated contortions with school districts or water districts or other things, and that's just the nature of the beast. So every time somebody says it, I'm very grateful that, I appreciate people saying that. I'm sure Tommy does too, and anybody else that works, everybody else that works on stuff. So, and with that, I would make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Got a motion to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Barstow. Discussion and roll.
Carter?
Yes.
Walther?
Yes.
Barstow?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Hicken?
Yes?
Lee?
Yes.
Put your chairs down.
I will be here too.
I get it.
Okay.
But I have a
Okay.
Super easy to read.
I'll be back at
Even know
some.
where it's at.
What's that?
Even know where it's at.
So when I get here, you won't be,
Playing better when you're.
but it'll be okay.
Oh, I know.
Because the last time I went and got Jess, and he said,
Yeah, you're up.